Hey everybody, it's Tony Cadaspati here, and I'm talking to you from my dining room at the Great Vocal Majority Northern Command. That's what I'll call it. But today I started off writing something that I entitled "The Democrats' Dirty Little Secret," and after writing it for a few minutes, I began to think that this might be better being a video. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I haven't made a video in a while. But I think it's kind of important to actually express this in video format. And here's what I'm getting at about the dirty little secret. The Democrats, now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away and rest in peace, and of course, we feel for her family because you lose your mother. It's a big deal. I lost mine a couple of years ago. I know it's a big deal. But in the aftermath of her death, immediately there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and let me just explain why I think it's important to fill that vacancy as soon as possible. The Democrats have basically guaranteed the country that they're going to contest the election if Donald Trump comes out on top on election night. And they're going to contest it everywhere. There's 600 attorneys working for the Biden campaign that plan to do just that. Now, the nearest example that we have of what happens when an election is contested happened 20 years ago in 2000 in Florida. And what do we learn from the Democrats' behavior at that time? We learned that the Democrats wanted to have, in the state of Florida, they wanted to have recounts, not statewide, if you remember. They only wanted it in 3 Democrat counties, heavily Democrat counties. And they also, while they did that, they were disqualifying military ballots because there's in the Pensacola area of Florida and also in the Tampa area, there are a lot of military people, and they tend to vote Republican by about 2-1. It varies, but that's about what they vote Republican. But the Democrats wanted those ballots stricken for some technical reasons and only wanted to have recounts in heavily Democrat areas like Broward County, where we saw what happened just a few months ago or a year ago when they had their gubernatorial campaign, and Broward County kept finding ballots, and there's a whole big problem there. Now they want to do this across the country in God knows how many states. And so with that, if you remember in the 2000 election, how did that end? It ended when the Supreme Court ended it. So now we have 8 justices. And if the Supreme Court gets a challenge that they must decide upon, there is a possibility. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a strong possibility, but there is a possibility that the court could end up deadlocked 4-4. Then what? Well, then if that happens, then I think the way it works, although I'm not an attorney, so people can check me on this, I think what happens is that the lower court decision rules the day. So who knows what kind of a bad taste that's going to leave in the loser's mouth and their supporters. And who knows who that loser might be? Does anybody know? Nobody knows. So I think you really have to have a full contingent on the Supreme Court to make any decision, so at least we can say that there was a full contingent of justices on the Supreme Court, and there wasn't some obscure justice in a lower court or group of justices in a lower court that were responsible for overturning the results of an election, possibly. So that's one of the reasons why I want to see the justice confirmed before the election. Of course, let's be honest, what's the likelihood of that? In the short period of time that we have, with all the contention that's going on, there are two chances, slim and none. Okay, and it's just not going to happen. But here's where I'm really getting into the meat of things about the Democrats' dirty little secret. The Democrats are threatening, actually, that if President Trump nominates somebody and this is voted on and they confirm a justice, that they plan to pack the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but during the Democrat primary campaign, several Democrats talked about expanding the Supreme Court for that very purpose. So my point to you is, Democrats are going to do that anyway, folks. That's their plan. They know that their radical agenda will never make it through the Supreme Court with it tilted to the conservative side, even with Ginsburg there. But now with Ginsburg gone, it's more conservative, and they know they're never going to get their agenda through. They're never going to pass the Green New Deal through the Supreme Court and all the other things that they want to do that are unconstitutional or have other serious constitutional implications. They're never going to do that. So what's the only way around it? It's to pack the Supreme Court. So now they're saying, well, we're going to pack the Supreme Court if you dare. As if President Trump doesn't have the right and actually the duty to name a justice and nominate a justice. And Mitch McConnell has announced that he's willing to bring it to a vote. But if you notice, McConnell never said when. He never said when he would bring it to a vote. He said that candidate will get a vote on the floor of the Senate. That's what he said. He did not say it would happen before the election. Did not say it would happen after the inauguration. He didn't say if it would happen in the lame duck session. He didn't say any of that. He left his options open because that's Mitch McConnell. Now, as a reward for Mitch McConnell, he's received death threats by the dozens over blue checkmark Twitter people, which is, talk about crazy. That's crazy. But even under the most optimistic projections, a confirmation of a new justice is, I'd have to say, it's unlikely. I mean, and not merely because you have cowardly Republican senators, which we know we have, the usual suspects, Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins. I mean, we know who they are. And there's probably others too, like Cory Gardner. I mean, maybe even Tom Tillis. I mean, there are people who are problems. And they're just looking out for their own careers. I mean, we know this, okay? But the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi's threatening, I mean, you have all the threats of violence against Mitch McConnell. You have the threats of riots by several people. One of them was a former CNN guy, which is astounding. And it just occurred to me that maybe Trump actually did this to smoke out the Democrats. Here's what I mean. Knowing that there's such a short period of time between now and the election, or even, the inauguration, to put up a candidate, a nominee now for the Supreme Court, may or may not pass. But the one thing it will definitely do is infuriate, if it can be done any more than it already has been, the Democrats. And they went for it. They go for Trump is like he throws chum in the water. I mean, he's like and it's like he doesn't think we need a bigger boat, but he's like throwing chum in the water, and the Democrats go for it every time. It's amazing. Nancy Pelosi's threatening to impeach Trump. I mean, she didn't say that explicitly. She said she's not taking impeachment off the table. What the hell does that mean? What does she mean she's not taking impeachment off the table? Impeachment for what? The president is duty bound by the Constitution when there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court to name a justice a nominate a justice, and the Senate may or may not take up that justice's consideration as we head into an election. Now, a lot of people on the Democrat side are disingenuously, in my opinion, claiming, well, you didn't consider Merrick Garland when Obama nominated him in 2016 in an election year. Difference. Here's a difference. And you probably heard this because Mitch McConnell has explained the difference. When the president and the Senate are of the same party, the control of the Senate is of the same party as the Republicans, as the presidency, then we have in the past confirmed Supreme Court justices in an election year. Okay. That wasn't the case when Merrick Garland was nominated by Obama, nor has it ever been the case in 140 years. So while it's not a law, while it's not a rule, while it's more of a tradition than anything else, that is what Mitch McConnell is hanging his hat on. He's saying, listen, this is the way we've done it. This has worked for us for 140 years. Let's not think about changing it now. That's what Mitch McConnell is saying. It's a self-serving argument, admittedly, but it is consistent with what he did with Merrick Garland. It's not inconsistent, as all the Democrats are trying to say. So when you think about all these, the threats that are coming out, I mean, just think about what is being said. There are people on Twitter and in other social media saying there should be riots. There are people saying that Mitch McConnell should be killed. There are people like Nancy Pelosi saying that she would consider impeachment over what? Who knows? I don't know. I mean, look at what they tried to impeach him for the last time. I mean, well, they did impeach him, but they couldn't convict him because it was a completely ridiculous charge. In any event, you look at how they've actually, instead of calming their rhetoric, they've raised their rhetoric even more dangerously, where they're actually openly advocating for violence. Now, who does that help? Trump. It helps Trump because Trump can say, look what I did. I'm following the Constitution, and they're threatening to riot. They're threatening to kill Mitch McConnell. They're threatening to impeach me. I mean, listen to what they're doing. These are the people you want in charge? This is what Trump can do. Trump can now turn around and say, look at the way the Democrats are behaving here. We have Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. She was an icon to many people, and I was not disrespectful. This is Trump speaking. I was not disrespectful when she passed away. I commended, how great of a person she was, and all that. I mean, may disagree with her politics and her legal mind, but he didn't. He wasn't disrespectful to her at all, or her family. And this is how the Democrats react. Right away, they want to burn things down. They want to riot. They want to kill McConnell. They want to impeach me. I mean, that's what he can say now. And so think about what happens when Trump selects, I don't think he's going to select this Amy Coney Barrett woman. I don't think he's going to select her. I think he's going to select a Hispanic woman because he's going to try to get the Democrats to attack an Hispanic appointee to the Supreme Court. Think about how that's going to go over in the Hispanic community. Think about that. So Trump, the Democrats want to play politics with this? Go for it. Because what will happen is he will put in that position someone that they're going to look very bad given the Kavanaugh treatment. And I certainly don't think that they're stupid enough. Well, I shouldn't say that because these politicians on both sides of the aisle, they're both stupid in their own ways. And I definitely think the Democrats just won't be able to control themselves because their energized base wants that. It's the 75, 80% of the rest of the country that doesn't want that. And I think Trump has really now again, I know people are going to laugh on the left, but it's true. I think he's showing his political genius here. He's really put the Democrats in a really bad spot, not just because there will be another justice on the Supreme Court at some point, whether it's now or after the election, but he will put the Democrats into such a bad spot that they will look so bad. I mean, think about the aftermath of what happened in the Kavanaugh hearings. That happened before the senatorial elections, and he expanded McConnell, that is, expanded the size of his majority. I think by one senator, or maybe it was two, but it was he expanded his majority. That's a big deal because the House didn't expand. The House went the other way, right? So the Democrats are really in a pickle. They really are. And I think that Trump, well, with the help of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, put him there. And I really believe that if Trump nominates the Hispanic woman, I forget her name, but she's one of the three women that are being considered. If he nominates her, which I think he will do, I mean, having that woman attacked, I mean, could you imagine? Kamala Harris is on the committee. She's going to be questioning the nominee. Think about how she treated Kavanaugh. She's going to treat a woman like that? If I were you, I would buy some popcorn and watch the show, because I think this has the potential of totally doing in the Democrats. It really does. And it almost doesn't matter if Trump gets that nominee in or not before the election, because by turning off so many voters, Trump's election night lead will be so great in so many unexpected places that the Democrats, they may try to overturn the election, but it's not going to work. And I think you're looking at another 4 years of Trump because of this. Ironically, thanks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's it for me. Take care.